Hey YouTube, today I'm going to talk about a subject that was brought up in one of my videos. But before we get started, I'm going to let you know that neither one of these revolvers I have here in front of me are loaded, and as I pick them up I'll show you there's nothing in them. So the subject for today is investing in firearms, and a viewer actually asked me a question and said, do you think that buying a machine gun is the exception to investing in firearms? And I'm going to go through that a little bit. And there's a reason why I have these two firearms here in front of me, and we'll get into that. So, anytime you make any type of investment in something, the reason that things gain in value is simply rarity. Something is rare, they're not making them anymore or anything like that. And if there's only a certain amount of anything out there, the price is susceptible to what people are willing to pay for them. People will pay a premium to get something that's not made anymore, and they have to get it from an individual person. And these two firearms here are examples. So I'm going to pick this first one up and show you that this is a Colt Python. It's not loaded, and this is one of the older ones. And this one was made in 1984. This is a stainless one. I've showed this many times on this channel. It's a bright stainless 1984 Python, all in mint condition. Now, there was a time where this was the hottest ticket in town. This was the hottest show in town. That they stopped making these in 1999. I know they've continued to make them for a couple more years in the custom shop and called them elites, but they stopped making these for quite some time in 1999. So you could say that this was sort of a rare item, that if you wanted to buy one, you had to buy one on the used market, and you had to buy one from an individual, and you were going to have to pay whatever they were asking, or you had to look around to get one. Very fine firearm, very handcrafted, just a cool design. But the price of them went through the roof, and the reason that happened was things like the show came out, The Walking Dead, and the guy, the main protagonist in that series, Rick Grimes, carried around one similar to this, had a 6-inch barrel, and people thought that show was cool, and they're like, I want to get that gun. And then they found out that they don't make them anymore, so you had to go looking on the used market, and prices went through the roof, and all of a sudden you had to pay thousands of dollars for just a revolver that should not cost that much. Well, you fast forward many years, 20 years or so past the time that they stopped making them. Colt caught on to that, caught on to the fact that people really wanted to get one of these. So what they simply started to do is they started making revolvers again. Colt stopped making revolvers altogether around 1999. Besides the single action army, they got out of the revolver game, and they decided they were going to start making them again. And I got a completely different one out here. I got an Anaconda. This one's just the same thing, but it's in 44 Magnum. Now this is a newer production one. This was made a few years ago, and what this did is Colt absolutely duplicated their old revolvers that everybody wanted, and they have the same smooth action. They have pretty much the same look and design and everything, and they streamlined the manufacturing process, and they started producing these again. They're very affordable. These Anacondas and Pythons come in right around the $1,500 mark, and these older ones here, they were commanding $3,000 and $4,000 for something like this bright stainless one. Well, when you have something now that's being made again, people are going to say, I want one, but I'm not going to spend $3,000 when I can go buy this one for half the price, and it looks the same, it functions the same. And I know there's a little bit of differences, and I have videos explaining the differences in them, but basically you're getting the same gun for half the price of what these older ones were commanding at the time. So the shines come off the penny a little bit with the Walking Dead thing and all the video games that had this one on here, and you couple that with the fact that they're making new ones again, the price on these have really come down quite a bit. You can find these a lot more reasonable than you used to be able to find them. They are more expensive than the newer ones, but they're starting to make something again. That's going to greatly affect the value of it. It's no longer a rare item. It's no longer something that there's only so many, a set number of them out there, and you have to go find them. Now we're going to talk about the machine gun question. The machine gun question is a great question. The viewer asked that if you want to buy a firearm as an investment, would a machine gun be a great investment? And my response to them is, if you want a machine gun simply because you want one, go ahead and do it. If you have the money, go ahead and do it. But if you're buying one as an investment, here's my thoughts on this. There's only so many transferable machine guns out in the world right now in the United States. In 1986, they included in the deal, in the bill, that you could no longer manufacture and sell machine guns to the ordinary public. You had to be law enforcement or military or something like that. So you could no longer manufacture new machine guns and sell them to the public. And they grandfathered in all the ones that were already registered up until 1986. So with that being said, there are a set number of transferable machine guns out in the wild today, same as it was with these Colt Pythons. There were only so many of them. They weren't making them anymore, so if you got one, you had to pay what somebody was asking, and it's not like you could go to the store and get a new one. Well, the prices are astronomical on a transferable machine gun because there's just only a few of them out there. And my response to him was, that price adjustment has already been set in stone. An M16, which is basically a full auto AR-15, you are going to pay $35,000 to $40,000 for one of those, and that is crazy. That is crazy. I cannot personally see the value of that going up much further than where it is now. So if you're going to buy something, your hopes are that it will increase in value if you're buying it as an investment, and I really don't see them going much more beyond that. You know, keeping up with inflation, of course. Inflation rate's about 2.5% a year right now. So what are you going to gain? You're going to keep up with inflation. That's not really a great investment. Now, if you would have bought one in 1985 and you know, had it all registered and everything like that, absolutely, that's a great move. But they're not making them anymore. Now, another thought on the process is, if you do roll the dice and you go spend $30,000 to $40,000 on a transferable machine gun, and if the NFA is headed in the direction that I firmly believe that it is headed in, it's not going to be tomorrow, folks, but it is heading into the direction where they are going to start manufacturing machine guns again one day. The minute they do that, all those $30,000 and $40,000 machine guns are going to lose their value instantly. I mean, absolutely, almost like pushing a button. And you've seen it happen with these right here. When they started making these newer Colt revolvers again, yes, you can. There are people like myself who still appreciate these older ones, but the value's not there because you can simply go buy a brand new one. And if they started manufacturing brand new AR-15s that are full auto, you still have to go through all the NFA stuff, get the tax stamp and all the stuff, and you could buy one for $3,000. Let's just use that number. It's a crazy number. Let's just use it, $3,000. That's going to be attainable. People are going to rush to buy them, and nobody's going to go buy a collectible old pre-1986 $40,000 M16 made by Colt. They're not going to do it. So that was my thoughts to that viewer that asked, do you think buying a machine gun would be a good investment? Another caveat to buying a firearm that costs, you know, the very lowest machine gun is going to be around $10,000, and they go all the way up into the hundreds of $1,000s. If you go to exit that investment, there is a very limited number of people who are willing to spend $10,000 to $100,000 on one firearm just to say they have it. So you're going to have to find that buyer that's willing to do that, and they are out there, folks. There's a lot of people out there. But if you're buying an investment, you have to have an exit strategy, and the exit strategy is you have to find the buyer to do that. Same for these guns right here. When these things were the hottest thing on the market, I mean, yeah, they were fairly easy to sell, but there's not a lot of people out there that are willing to spend, you know, $3,000, $4,000, $5,000 on a single handgun when they can literally go buy a .357 revolver anywhere else for $600 to $700 brand new that will do the exact same thing as this. That's going to be the machine gun story when, if and when, what I think is going to eventually happen with the NFA happens. So I do not recommend buying any firearm as an investment whatsoever. I do recommend buying firearms. I am a 100% pro 2A person. I love firearms. I love talking about firearms. I love collecting firearms. I love shooting firearms. But as far as making an investment in firearms, that's never going to be me, folks, and I'm never going to advise anybody to do that. That's just my opinion. I would not do it. And the reason I showed these two weapons here today is this was a rare item that was no longer made, and you had to go on the, the second-hand market in order to find one. And since they aren't making them anymore, and they were wildly popular, people were charging a lot of money for them. When they re-released them on these right here, and this one happens to be an Anaconda, like I just said, but when Colt re-released these, anybody can go buy one. You can literally go to the store today. They'll have them sitting on the shelf. Sometimes you can get a discount on them. Sometimes they're on sale or whatever. They're very affordable to what people were asking for the older ones that we're not making anymore. So basically, firearms are really not a good investment, and that was my response to that viewer. I thought it was a great question because you are dealing with something that you cannot get out on the market every single day. They're not making any more of them. There's only so many of them out there, but I think that value has reached its peak the day that bill was signed into law in 1986. I think it reached its peak. People realize they're not making anymore, and if you want to buy mine, this is what it cost. And the people that are asking $1 million for one, they're not going to get it, but there are going to be people out there that will pay the $40,000 for it. There's just not a lot of them out there. I do not think buying a machine gun is an investment. But I think buying a machine gun because you want one and you don't think the NFA laws are ever going to change, and you have to buy one that's already transferable, absolutely do it. If you have the money, absolutely do it. Just don't think investment. Don't be investment minded when you're buying firearms. But anyway, folks, I just want to go through that little bit of spiel about the machine gun question. I thought it was a great question. I thought these two firearms, this is a newer style 4.25 inch Colt Anaconda chambered in .44 Magnum, and this was a 1984 manufactured Colt Python in bright stainless. I thought these were two great examples, something they didn't make anymore, and now they started making the newer ones again, and that's what happens to the market. If you have any questions, folks, feel free to ask them. I'll try and answer them as best as I can. And as always, thank you very much for watching my video today, and you folks have a great day.